To quickly start with, if you have not installed Python, you can install. So there are like multiple ways of installing. You can go to the official site called as python.org and we can install the Python. You can go to the download section and download. If you are interested in a particular particular version, you can go there. And based upon your machine and thing, you can go it. Let's say you want to go to a particular version also, you can go. So we can install all the things. At the same time, uh, if you download it, you need to manually install it. Rather, I would recommend in Windows, a better way is using Chocolatey. If we just Google like Chocolatey install Windows, you will get to the first website called as installing Chocolatey. If you walk through there, it will give a couple of statements. So you can ignore all the above things, but here you can have the one statement. Just what you need to do, you need to open the PowerShell. In Windows, everyone will have this called as PowerShell. If you open PowerShell, you can run this command. Generally, everyone just opens the PowerShell directly. Rather, you should open it as an admin. So again, type the PowerShell this time, and you will have an option like run as admin. So if you open the run as admin PowerShell, so it will give a prompt. If you say yes, then subsequently you need to copy this entire statement and paste it here. So as it was already installed, I need not do it. But once you do it, it will install the Chocolatey. That is the very first statement. Once Chocolatey was installed, see it is saying like you already have installed it. That's the reason it's fine. Now the next step is like what is saying, you just need to execute this command. So, and like if you do that, the next statement is you go to Google again and say Choco install Python. So again, it will lead to a new file location. The Google command itself I'm showing. The very first thing would be the Python version. You can see this is the official logo of Python. It is navigating to 3.11. So how to install it? It's just a simple command. So Choco install Python. So generally this is the best way of doing, because like you need not worry whichever is the latest version, it will go and install. Again, go to the same PowerShell command and just do like Choco install Python. If it is not installed, it's gonna install it. As it was already installed for me, it is saying that it's not needed. And similarly, if you want to upgrade the package also, you can say Choco upgrade, so Python. So if there is a latest version for me, so and if it is compatible and it works for me, it will install. So then like if sometimes if it is not there, it will not install. I have 3.11.2 installed, but 3.11.3 is there. It's okay. So if it is there, it will install to me. And in this way, we can do. There is another alternative way using, in due course, it will happen. There is another thing called as Anaconda distribution. If you just Google Anaconda Python, you will understand. So what is the difference here is that Python is an open source thing, means anyone can use it. The moment Python comes with, Python is suitable for so applications ranging from like so I would say like there is one article, world made with Python. If you see this article, I had a blog spot where I can show you. I think like I have gone somewhere else. Fine. Somewhere like I lost that. Just a moment. It's in my blog spot somewhere. I wrote like in the world made with Python, like the number of things which were done with Python. I don't have it handy, but like if I can count on it, there were a lot of rather. Yeah, world made with Python. If you see this article, this was a very old article, but still there were a lot of things here. If you can see the applications which were created with Python, starting from say the Anki, which is a space repetition flashcards, so till like BitTorrent. So I think you are more familiar with BitTorrent. And if you are aware of animations, there is Maya software. Similarly, there is something called as PyMaya, and there is something called as Blender 3D for 3D animations. So where repetitive actions need to be done, so we can automate with Python. And Deluge is another BitTorrent for like downloading the bits. And like Dropbox is created with Python itself. And you can get familiarized with most common things like Mercurial, which was like a distributed source control management, and OpenShot video editor. And like there were like many things which were like most commonly used, the M package manager. And in terms of the web applications, if you just Google, you'll understand the ERP market. There is something called as Open ERP, which was with Odoo, so which is one of the frameworks which was created with Python itself. So this Open ERP, and similarly, like there are many things which are written. You see, Instagram, Pinterest, Bitbucket, so Mozilla, some extent of Mozilla was created with Python itself. Like that, there are many things which are done with Python. Means Python as a language is suitable for creating a small standalone application or like a command line utility till a big web application or a RESTful APIs for graphics, everything we can use. Now you can imagine that when you are coming with the basic Python, python.org, so it will come with a minimal number of modules. So this is for everyone to use, from biotechnology to astronomy. And now if you want for a specific use cases, especially in the data engineering part, this Anaconda came into picture. So they are mostly into the data science, AI, and ML packages. Means they have the base Python as it is, and apart from that, they have managed to add few more packages. So the difference is same. At in the initial stage when you're learning, you don't find any difference between the basic Python and these Anaconda distributions. Of course, there were other distributions also, but like Anaconda is most famous among the private distributions. But so down the line, once you are getting familiar and you got understanding, if you want, you can go. It doesn't make any difference. So in the initial stage. So we also have all these modules individually, but they will come pre-built and installed. So the difference is like in Python, we install with pip install. Here we call it as a conda install. That's a slight difference. So this is about the basic installation. Once you have the installation done, so you should have a Python installed. To check that, you can open a command prompt and you can just type Python. The moment you type Python, it should go to this shell. If it is not going to shell, means either your Python was not installed properly or your environment variables were not set properly. So if everything was done, so you just follow those two commands, that's it. Install Chocolatey and like Choco install Python. If you do these two commands, so obviously everything will be done. If you still find any issues, just close the terminals and open a new terminal. That should be fine. Once done, we should have something to work. For that, we need to go for Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code is the most common thing that is being used these days. So it is called as an IDE at the same time editor also. Earlier, there used to be a very difference between editor and an IDE. Nowadays, it was very blurry, the edges, borders. So you can just download and next up installation. Or if you have Chocolatey, you can work with Chocolatey also. I can say like, Choco install VS Code. That's it. If you do Choco install VS Code, that also will do. You see, there's a command called as Choco install VS Code. See here. So I also have installed the other one too. Still happening for me. I think something happened. It's okay. Leave it. It is asking me rollback. Yes, leave it. So similarly, I can do a Choco install VS Code so that VS Code will be installed. After installing these two, we need to have a directory where we want to work. So for that, we need to create a repository. So for that, there is something called as a GitHub. GitHub is for our source code management. Okay, as a developer, when you're working, we need to have some kind of source code management. I need to have first you need to open it, just github.com, and if you do a sign up for the very first time, it will ask, hey, what's the name that you want to give? So welcome. So it will ask for the mail ID. Say I want to create with some of the dummy email I have. So I created for one of the persons. It is asking for some username it should give. I created a username also. So once it is done, it is saying that it's not there. I created. Do you want to receive updates? No, I don't want to receive anything. Just click it, that's it. So start the puzzle. One square that shows two identical objects. I think this is what we need to do. So once that is done, yeah, I created one of the puzzle which was solved. Then we can do a create account. It will create. So it will send me a thing. So I can say the password for a moment. So once I get the credentials, I created an account. Is how many members will be there in your team? Just for me, I want to create, or like in my team, anything I can do. Are you a teacher or a student? Anything it's asking, but fine. So I can say like I can. So individually also we can create, but like this also we can create. If I just say it's a student, just for me, if I continue, I will get it. So the beauty is like we can do a lot of things here in terms of like collaborative coding means multiple people can come and commit the code. So that is the next stage. Then like CI/CD setup, a typical project wherever you are coming. So everything you can come here. I'm saying like I'm interested in these things, security. So these kind of things I'm community and like a team administration something if I write. So what is the advantage of coming? So what it is saying is like by default if you come, you have free tier. Here in GitHub also we can have a code spaces. Recently they created means you can manage your code also, and you can also add certain so run your code also here only. So that's the advantage. So I just want to continue like this. And there is a student benefit also if you are a student. So you can create with a student account so that you will get some advantage. Once you have created, so it will ask for you to create a repository, or you can parse the existing repository. Like you go in a Facebook, you can see others posts and also you can do your post, right? In the same fashion, you can jump onto here and see. If you say explore GitHub, in GitHub also there were so lakhs of people who have done their own code commits. So you can see anything like that. If you want, you can check by topic, you can check by trend. So like that, you can check all the modules or the code, source code actually, whoever has done something. At the same time, you also can create your own repository. If you want to create your own repository, you should click on create repository. The moment I click the repository, you see this is my handler name, which are the handler name is created. Under that, I need to tell. If I say like Python, so Python for data engineering. So Python for data engineering. I want to be very precise. Say April 23. Okay, 2023. This is what precisely I wrote. Python for data engineering, April 23. So the repository name should be unique such that so tomorrow I will create one more also. It should not affect the others. So I created. What it is saying, this is available. You can create. You can give some explanation. Say like Python, so source code for data engineering related. Okay. And do you want this repository to be public or private? If I make it as a private, then only few people can access. If I make it public, then everyone can access it. So if I say like if I am making it private initially, Down the line, I want to make it public afterwards. And there is something called as a README file. Every project, when anyone comes, there should be some file which tells about the project. So to understand that information, some text, we need a README file. And there is one more thing called as git ignore. Git ignore means in the code, we write multiple things, but we don't want to commit everything. So for that reason, we need a git commit. So the most common thing, if you want to see, there are language-based git ignores. So one is Python. I repeat again, why we need git ignore means in our code, in your locally, I will show afterwards. We write multiple files, .py files, .txt files, PDF files, multiple things. But we don't want certain files to be sent. Say like the editor-related settings files and others. So in that case, if you do ignore, then they will not go. What is the concept? I will tell you. Then in terms of license, do you want to take any specific license or you want to be generic enough? So you can specify which are the license you want to make. It says that the unlicensed means like anything, the Mozilla license, GNU license means every license has some importance. I generally go with like Apache, where like anyone can use and they can reuse and they can do their own way. So whereas GNU means like we need to specify, like different licensing has different things, but you can just ignore. And I created a repository. So this is how I created a repository. Now after creating there is a repository. Now how can I write code? I can just do, there is something called as code spaces. If I go to code spaces also, I can do, this is something called as code spaces I told. If I go there, I need not download entire code locally. I can just go and do create and do the things. But if I want to do locally, then I need to clone it. So if I want to do, let's say here only, then if I say code space, what I say, I came to this repository and I'm clicking here. So to the code space. So if you see like create code space on main branch. So there is something called as a main. What is this main means? These are the branches. Basically, our code will be in multiple branches. Whichever, whatever you are writing the code, that will go like this. So there are two ways. Either locally you can pull and push, or like directly you can do. Now, if I go here, if I create here itself, create code space and main. A environment will be created in the code space for me, but one catch is that this is a payable version. Means there will be free tier monthly. So beyond that we cannot use. As a student, if you are registering, you will get some more duration. But so ultimately it is a paid version. So every month you will have some amount free, and beyond that we need to do it. It is like whatever you do locally, the same thing like that. So by default, when I create a repository, three files are there: the gitignore file, license file, and readme file. So how they are created? Because I checked that options. Readme file means you can see this content, right? So what are the repository name? What are the description I give as it is? Whereas license file means what is the license? Apache license or something. You can ignore. And like gitignore files means what files you don't want to upload, like a build files, lib files. So these are all manifest, ordinary files, right? Coverage files. So for every language, there will be certain set of files which don't want to push. Those files are there. So as of now, you have these three files. Similarly, when you go to the code space also, which was created for you, you can see these three files are there. You are seeing these things. Now, this is a Linux environment, to be precise. That's why you should see clear, then it will work. So now, if you want to create, how do you create? I can create a new folder. So I can say 01, say introduction. See, there are two options here. It is a typical VS Code only. So nowadays, most commonly used is VS Code. Even locally also the same thing is there. So online also same thing is there. I have introduction. Say, if I do like introduction, I want to do something, then I can create like, say a hello world dot py. I created a file. See, this option is for creating a new file. Second option is for creating a new folder. And wherever you want to create, select that option, and below that if you create, it will create under it. So I created an introduction folder. Under that I created a file. So the moment I created, it is asking, hey, do you want to install Python related extensions? Because the moment I did a .py, it understood that you are working with Python files. So it is asking, can I install Python extensions? What are these extensions? This editor needs some information, right? So means whenever you're writing, it needs some kind of support. It will give automatic support. So identifying, highlighting the things. For this was added. Now everything is good. So this is under this section. And this is first section is the Explorer. Second is like search. Third one is your Git. After your work is done, you can push everything. At the same time, see here, next it is asking, hey, can I install this PyLint extension? PyLint, I will tell you afterwards. It is something called a static code analysis. Maybe this is a very nascent stage. At this stage, it's not good for you to tell you, but it helps in terms of code quality, improving the code quality, I would say, afterwards. So in a VS Code, if you see, these are options. Explorer, if you want to search something and replace, and this is the Git. What are the changes you did? You can commit there itself or in command line. And then is the debugging. If you want to debug something, this is there. Then like the extensions. Here in this section, you can have multiple extensions. Not just this. If I just type, you can see these are all the extensions which are already installed by default. And if you want to install further also, you can install it. So Docker related, so Copilot and others. So these are not at this moment for you. And similarly for the testing, one thing, how to configure and do it. And the GitHub, so how to push. So at this stage, initially you have only one file. I just created a file. Now, you know how to write a hello world script. Hello world. The moment I wrote hello world, you can see, I will check in the ls. In the current directory, there is a folder called as 01 introduction. So within that, if I say ls, you can see there is a file. Now, if I say Python, a hello world, did you see I got it? And you know, if you want to clear the screen, clear is a command. And if you want both the things to be done simultaneously, clear and Python a so and so. So don't you think you got hello world, right? So that is a typical hello world program you wrote. Now, if you want to enhance it by adding like multiple options and doing some things, you can specify that and do it. Say, I want to create like some other program. A typical program doesn't mean that we should write like this. Means like not only hello world. Say like I want to do something else. I want to add say two operations I want to take and do the additions. Say number 1 is equal to 100. So number 2 is equal to 200. Now I want to print like, so number 1. So if I say number 1, what will happen? As I'm printing number 1 in quotes, I got like this. Did you all understand? Whatever the commands you wrote, they will be executed, but only if there is a print, it will come. But print also, you wrote in quotes. That's the reason you got as it is. But in the same line, in the next line, if I say number 1 without quotes, now observe the difference. You got 100. So, but like if you want both of them in this next thing, say if I say number 2 and again number 2, so I give one line space. So though I gave line number 8 as a space, but it didn't do. Means empty lines will be just ignored. If you want some space, you need to write an empty space. If you write an empty print statement, then it will give the space. And similarly, if you want these two in the same line, you need to specify them side by side. If I say like, if I say number 2 and followed by number 2 in quotes, then what will happen? The number 2 will come, but first So whenever you don't have quotes, the value will come. So if you do the things in the vice versa, I can say number 2, comma number 2. Now it's clear, right? So now I understood. So that's the reason. So if I want to make it more sense, I can say number 2 is equal to something. Now don't you understand what I'm trying to do? No, you understood basically how this print is working, how it is gonna help you, right? Okay, sir, this is good. What if I want to do the same thing for number 3? So similarly, I want to go for number 3 and I ask like, hey, print number 3. Will it print? No, it throws an error. What is this error saying? Name error. So number 3 is not defined. Means you can use a variables only if they were defined. If they were not defined, you won't get it. But in quotes, you get the content. The content within quotes means as it is. Whatever you have in quotes as it is. But if you're asking something outside that, it will throw an error. And if you want to comment it, so we have a hash operator. You can use a control slash for commenting and uncommenting. So if I use that, I can do like this. And if I comment it, then subsequently if I add, did you see? What are the line which was commented will not be executed. And observe one point. Python is a interpreter based language. Means like each line executes separately. So whatsoever you have done, so if you want to comment any of the lines, you need to comment individually. So there is nothing like a multiple line comment. So only this way we can comment something. Hope it's clear. Any doubts till now?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay. Now let's go for one more example. Say like again, maybe instead of a hello world, I want to name this as like the first command. I just, if you want to rename some command, just you need to do, so right click and do rename, or like function key F1 or F1, just F1 and do it. So you can just rename it. I renamed it to what? A underscore first dot py. Now, if I type like Python, if I execute the previous command, it will throw an error. It says no such file is present. But so you need to understand clearly. If I say Python, a first dot so and so, it will execute like that. Whatever the file you have, you need to just execute like this. Now I want to create b underscore hello world. I have the habit of writing like this, such that when you're reading also, you don't feel you can go in a flow, in a sequence. So I wrote like a b hello world. So how do you execute the same command? So Python space b hello world. It executed. There is nothing. But there is one interesting point I want to bring to your notice. So that is about the Shebang line. Shebang line means what? Shebang line means every command we need to, every line we need to start with user bin Python. What is this command? Why we need it? This is called a Shebang command. So do we need it? So to understand that, first let me tell you one thing interesting. Till now we are doing Python space something, right? But what if we were doing just Python? It will go into an interactive mode. In interactive mode also we can write. So Python code can be executed in two ways. You can write in a program like this, or you can do directly like the interactive mode. Means in interactive mode also I can say number 1 is equal to 100, number 2 is equal to 200, and I can say number 1 plus number 2. If I ask, I get the result. And if I say like, result is equal to number 1 plus number 2, I can do that. And if you want to print the result, I can specify that. And I can do all kinds of operations. Once my work is done, I should say exit. Then it will go to the terminal. Means this is called a script mode, as we are writing in a script. So Python is called as a scripting language and a programming language. Of course, there's a debate. I will tell you afterwards. It's not the first day to explain that. So this is called as script mode, and this is called as interactive mode. Sir, in which case we need to go for which mode means when you just want to check whether something is working or not, then the interactive mode is good. But if you want to create a program as an entity and if you want to distribute, so this is where, because interactive mode, what happens once you come out of the terminal, even if you try to go again to Python terminal interactive mode, you cannot find the previous value, what are you have defined. Once you came out of the session, that's it. Whereas a script is not that way, right? So even if you close and you can come back after 2 years also, if the file is there, assume, so you can execute the same way. Persistence, that's the most important thing. So that's another thing. Okay. And one more thing is that whenever you're typing just Python, where is it installed? In Windows, there is command called as where. Anything if you want installed in Windows, we should say like where Python. But you see, this code space is created in a Linux environment. So that's the reason here we need to say which Python. If you say which Python, it is saying where the Python was installed here. So if you see, you can leave out the home / code space / pin so and so. But generally, so the code will be installed in the this particular directory, user bin Python. So in any Linux machine, it will happen like this. Python space b hello world. You get it. Similarly, in Linux, there is another way of executing any command. So if you want to run something, there is something called as / execution. .py. Generally, here they don't have permission. What I say, you don't have permission. In Linux, actually, there is concept of permissions. If you want something to be an executable, we need to give the permission. If you say ls-la, so L, you can see that what are the permissions? Read, write is there. Then execute permissions are not there. It's very simple for you to understand. So here chmod, so plus x, b so and so. The reason why I'm telling, I will show you shortly. Now, if I again do the same ls-le, you can notice now that it is having this extra x for this b. So there is extra x, right? So color also change it to this green color. Generally, executables having permission will be like this. Now, if I do this / execution, it is saying that you don't have, okay, / execute. If I say no such file or directory, no such file or directory, because you don't have this path, this shebang path. So for that only, to understand, there is something called as which Python I told, right? Which Python means this is your Python path. So I have given like this path now. Saved. Now, if I say /v so and so, if I execute, did you see hello world happened? I did this much of work. What all things I will tell you shortly. So why we need this also, I will tell shortly. So first thing, Python can be executed in two ways. Python scripts can be executed in two ways. So in Python, I told there are two ways. One is like interactive mode. The other one is script mode. Script mode. Script mode files can be executed in two ways. One is in the terminal. You can say like Python space script.py, like this you can execute, or you can say a / script.py. So just if I'm giving an analogy, have you ever seen in a Windows, if you open a PDF, will you right click and say that open with a Adobe Reader or open with a Foxit Reader or something, or you just double click and it will open? So where you told it, defaultly one time you will tell right to open. So means it will understand that yes, PDF file means I need to open with this thing. So Word means I need to open with this thing. Like that you will tell something sometime. In the same fashion, in Linux also the same thing happens. Generally, so for if it is a Python program, if I say Python space script name .py, if it is a Perl program, Perl space script.pl, like that for every language if they are writing, it would be difficult, right? For a typical Linux admin. So that's the reason they will do like a / execution. For doing / execution, we need to have a executable mode. That's the reason we are doing chmod plus x. So that script name means that script we are marking it as executable, and we are executing like this. Then from then onwards, so it can be, so whichever the path it has, it will execute based upon that. So how it is going? They based upon the Shebang line. In this particular code space, the Shebang line is sorry, Python is present in this line, particular path. That's the reason I used it. Generally in Windows, it doesn't work it. So in Windows, it will treat it as just a comment. This kind of facilitation of Shebang line is there only for the Linux. In Linux, that's the reason we can do like a dot slash execution or like with a Python space execution. Both ways we can do. In Windows, we can do only the second way. Hope you understood the difference. So hope you understood this concept of Shebang line. So generally the code space was like that, and this is a purpose. So generally, and for every command script, we write this thing called as doc strings. Doc strings means like something related to documentation, you can think. So it's nothing like a comment because we can extract the content out of it afterwards. So this is called a Shebang line. Shebang line. Hope you understood the concept of Shebang line. Any doubt till now? This is an opportunity that you have only in Linux. In Linux, to give an alternative path, they do like this. And that's the reason the first two characters are like hash followed by exclamation. As Python is a line by line execution, in the first line, when it gets this one, it will help this dot slash execution. Whenever you're doing a dot slash execution, this line is not there, then it cannot do. Assume that I remove that. Okay. If I do the same dot slash execution, what is saying? Hey, I don't have anything. You wrote some command which is not comfortable for me. If I write the Shebang line again, now if you see, it will understand. Means the moment you did a dot slash execution in Linux, the Linux command will go and search for this command, any line, the first line, with this starting with this one. If this first line is starting with like hash followed by exclamation, it means it is something related to the operating system, and it will do. Hope now you understood about the Shebang line concept, right? That's it. After this Shebang line, there is one more thing about the pip8. So what is this pip8? So what it is saying, and why we need to work on it. And coming to this to understand, see pip8 guidelines.py. What do you mean by pip8? So if I just do like a okay, so hope you can see the screen. Pip8. If I just type pip8 in the Google, you can say like a Python style guide for Python. Means like generally many people will tell this one in the last stage of your course. It is a best practices to be followed. Generally, guideline means what? Guideline means if you follow, it would be good. But these are not mandatory. It's same like traffic guidelines. So traffic guideline means what? Hey, so so Google will tell you that today traffic is very heavy this time. It says you a guideline that go in this direction. So if you don't go and if you want to be still the same, it's up to you. Or similarly, so wearing a helmet or something. So guideline means it's not mandatory, but if you follow, things will be good. So for that, there are different guidelines. First and foremost is indentation. So indentation means it should be like 4 spaces. You see, we use like functions, classes, and all the block commands. How much spaces need to be done? How much spaces need to be done? So for that, what is the best practice? Similarly, so what for a tabs for so and so, for a line, how many you need to use? There are many rules like this, but in one day we cannot remember all of them. We will slowly accustom to ourselves to this practice. Day by day, we will understand. Generally, this is a Shebang line. which everyone follows. So if it is a typical Linux program, we write this as the shebang line. It is not mandatory that we write the shebang line. So the shebang line is needed only when you are working in a Linux environment. But if you are not sure whether your program will work on Linux or Windows, you can write like default. But this shebang line doesn't work in this code space. So just like a first line, whatever may be your typical shebang line, write that. Then in the second line, write in these double quotes, means like this doc strings, about the purpose of the program. What is the purpose? The PIP8 guidelines. So you want to learn about the PIP8 guidelines. So for that, there is PIP8 means like PIP means like Python enhancement proposal. So generally, when a Python as a language that is evolving, there will be multiple enhancements, right? Everyone proposes it. So as part of it, like we need to work on this. So here, everyone supports like doing some enhancement here and there. One such enhancement is using this one. For that, PIP8 to be precise is about the coding style guide. There are multiple pips coming every day. If we just do like pips.org so and so, if I just do, it will show the list of all the pips. So it is starting from the pip 0 onwards. If I just go for the pip index, you can see all the pips are there. Means the numbers are not contiguous. So sometimes some numbers will be depleted. So for the style guide for the C code, sir, why C code is there in Python? Means Python code directly will not execute on the machine. First it will convert to the C language and then convert. So this is the most used version called as C Python. Alternately, there are some other versions like Jython, where Python code converts to a Java and then executes. But most of the time, so this is the main thing. Python code converts to C language. That's the reason. So there's a lot of compatibilities and others. So every pip will tell something. You see, after some time the numbers were very big enough. So these numbers will be there. So everyone tells about something or the other enhancement. So pip8 is one thing. So it says like the first line should be shebang line. It is not mandatory, but it's a guideline. And the next is like in the doc strings, write about your purpose of your code. Then within that you write your code. Say like I want to work on, say the same print statement. And generally one more thing I want to bring to your notice. Whenever you see Google, you will find that there will be something like this. They will write print followed by this codes. In Python 2, print used to be like a statement, means there were no braces. But if you execute that statement now, it's gonna throw in error. Because in Python 3, so print is no more a statement, but this is a function. So you are right now in a stage where you no longer work with old code, but still it is better to remember certain differences. Not every difference you can learn at this stage, but the very basic difference is print statement. In Python 2, just to facilitate the conversion from Python 2 to 3, they introduced print as a function also. So that's the reason this print as a function will work both in Python 2 and 3. But there are certain statements, so be aware that they were Python 2 specific. So the beauty of this print statement is that you write any data type, any number of values, it will just execute them. If I execute it, see here, hello world, true, so and so. No matter how many statements I have, it gonna execute to me. So this is all about it. And similarly, if I write like in Python, so there are certain things called as the keywords. We need to understand this concept of keywords. So I will tell again about these keywords, but like this, print is a function. So there are this true is a keyword. Like that, there are multiple things. Whenever their context comes, I will tell you shortly. Next, last thing about the Python is about the dynamic type languages. So what do you mean by dynamic typing? Say like I want to count it as D. Dynamic typing means what? Again, see here, if I want a shebang line, I can write it. I just don't want shebang line, I can just ignore it. I can write what is my purpose. In purpose, I'm saying that Python is a dynamic type language. Generally, languages are of two types. One is like static type language, means like first we need to declare the data types, then we need to assign the values. So in C language, C++, Java, all these things are static type language. Just imagine if you want to eat something, first we need to have containers, means we need to have plates. So then we can eat something, right, on a plate. In the same fashion, in there, we need to first declare the variables and then use them. Whereas in Python, you need not do that. You just define the variable, that's it. So it will take care of how to define and how to use it all the way. So due to this, if you execute, say like, I created a variable called as number1 is equal to 10. And subsequently, if I'm asking, hey, there is one built-in function called as type, which will give the data type of the object. So number1 is like a type I'm asking. And if I execute the statement, say Python, so d so and so, did you see nothing happened? Means execution happened, but there is no print statement. That's why nothing is printing. So print is most essential whenever you want to print something. Whatever the action you do, it will happen, but it will not print until you write a print statement. The moment I wrote a print statement, it is saying that it is of type integer. So as you know, in the previous case, we have seen that if I type like two statements, number1 and number1 in quotes, then obviously things will come in two separate lines. Wherever I wrote in quotes, I'll get like the number1 as it is. But if you want all of them together, so I told like how to work on it. That also I told, right? So if I just do like this, then I get like everything in a single line. So Python and so and so. In the same fashion, like this, so every time I want to clear the screen and Python, so d so and so. See, two commands I did in one shot. In the same fashion, I have this type also, right? So I want to print all of them together. I want the name is equal to number1 is equal to number1 and its type is equal to type. Now if I execute now, did you notice? Number1 is equal to 100 and it is of type integer. Hope it's clear. Till now, we define one variable and its data type, everything at one shot we are seeing. Now, what is this concept of dynamic typing, sir? Means changing these values. You have a value of 100. And if you are modifying the values, yes, right, we can modify any value. So generally in static type languages, like C language and others, we have constants. Python don't have that kind of constant variables. For any variable, any value, we can change anytime. So within the same data type also we can change. So it is already an integer. I change it to an integer. Subsequently, if you ask, it says yes, it's an integer. You gave a value of 30. And similarly, if I change that value to say 30.0, if I say 30 point, sorry, 300.0. So if I execute again, it is saying that see here, you did 300. It is of type float. So it is giving like a warning saying that, hey, you used the same variable. And also it is saying constant variable is used. These are like, suggestions. You can ignore them for this moment. And similarly, the same thing I will change to different data types. So starting like this, like integers, floats, you see here, I'm changing to different data types. So initially it is an integer, then I convert it to float, then I convert it to a negative float, then negative float with a j in the last. So j, the moment it is in there, it becomes a imaginary value. Once it becomes an imaginary, it is a complex variable, right? And similarly, if you ask for the same 300 as a string, if you give, it will say it's of type string. If you give like a string something else, also string. And also there is something called as true, false. These are Boolean values. And there is something called as a none, which is a none type. Like this, you have different data type. And also be careful. Sir, you told that a number1 is equal to true is possible. So can I do like a number1 is equal to true? Now tell me what's the difference between these two lines, line 49 and 50?
Python is case sensitive, sir. So
Exactly. So Python is a case sensitive. So means like it will treat so both of them separately. So in fact, if you execute also, so nowadays they are making the statements also very clear. Earlier the error messages are not that clear, but now they are very clear. They are trying to say that, hey, Python is a case sensitive. If you use capital TRUE, it I know it. But if you are using small true, I don't know it. So that's why you need to comment it. So the moment I comment it, I can use it. See here. So hope you understood the difference. So Python is a case sensitive language. However it is using, we need to pass in the same way. And in the same fashion, for the nuns also, I can go for different kinds of nuns. But see, in this case, what happened? I give different kinds of nuns. Even none like in a different ways. Say just NONE, like this also I give. But it will not throw any error because these two were in quotes, right? In quote something if I have, they were treated as strings. In string doesn't matter what way you wrote, right? But if you wrote outside, you should follow the conventions. Okay, hope it's clear. So whatever, if you want to define something as a string, we need to declare in quotes. That's the beauty of it. So this is all about this one. Now after this, the last two things here we need to learn is about the indentation issue. I would say this is the heart of I would say uh, Python. Any person who comes newly to Python, they feel like Python is a very good language, sweet language, and others. But the only difference they will feel is about this indentation. If you know how to handle this indentation, Python is like the best language for you, I would say. But initially, I struggled. I hope that you will not struggle. So like me, because initially when I came to Python as a language, I know right from a C language when I came, I write to code, but it used to fail. I don't know why it is failing. So understanding why it is failing only took me a lot of time. So typically, how do you write a program? The first line should be a Shebang line. So and also I told the Shebang line, this is a generic Shebang line. But if you have a specific Shebang line, you can modify that. And also it's not mandatory even. And then you write the purpose within these doctrines. So then like I have some print statements. Say I have a print hello world 1, say hello world 2, and hello world 3. Okay, so I'm doing a clear and Python. So E so and so. So there is nothing difference, right? What I executed, it is working. Hello world. Now, generally as a beginner, what happens? Rather than you writing everything, you just copy paste from many places, right? You just Google, get some answers and do. Sometimes what happens is like when I Google, so the values used to be not in a consistent way. Means they used to come in a different way, right? Whatever comes, it will done. Now, did you notice a slight difference? In line 6, there is one extra white space in the starting. In Python, it doesn't matter how many empty spaces you have. It will just ignore empty lines. And even after your statement, if you have anything also, it doesn't matter. But at the starting of the statement, even if you have a small white space, it will be a very big problem. So what did it say? Hey, indentation error. What is saying? In this line, in line 8 I got. If I just remove one of the line and if I execute the command again, did you see now it is saying line 7? So it will exactly show where it felt the issue. Not every time it will say where the error is. If it can identify error, then I know they don't need human beings. It will understand how to solve the errors. So fine, jokes apart. Here there is a problem. What is saying? You have an unexpected indent. So whenever error is coming, very beautiful. Every errors will be of particular type. Means error classification, I would say. Within that classification, what is the message? Error message. So anytime when the error is coming, two things will come. What is the error classification? And what is the error message? Here error classification is saying about the indentation, and the error message is unexpected indent. Hey, I unnecessarily got an indentation. If you remove this indentation, then I gonna work. Means if I remove that and place, then it will work perfectly. As I didn't do it, so it didn't work. Means here unnecessarily a white space came, right? This is a quite understanding. Everyone does. Then what happened is like I understood about there is something called as block codes. Every language will have like if statements, else statements, elif, for loop, while loop, define. All these things will be there, right? Every language will have. So when you're working on a conditions, say if 12 is greater than 3, it's a very simple statement. So then you want to print it, right? What we learned is that there should not be white space in the starting. So I didn't give. Then what happened if I execute? Again, it is throwing an error. So then I was confused and I was literally, getting confused. What is this language? Why it works like this? If you understand, if I comment these 3 lines, you will understand one thing. This is also under the same classification, but be a bit patient. Understand the message, what it is saying. Means anything space related things are the indentation errors. Here you unnecessarily gave a white space which you don't need it. Here you need a white space, expected and intended block after if condition. Means I need it, but you didn't give. Means here I repeat the same statement, and if I give that particular space to it, then it gonna work. There I don't need, you gave it. That's the reason. Here I need, but you didn't give. Because in Python, block quotes will be working like this. We don't have anything like a braces. So no open braces, no closed braces. Every indentation will be represented by a one level. So not only this, like if I have a elif or a if else, so I need to write like this. For the if block, one indentation, else block, one indentation. Similarly, if I have like a if else, so say elif, if I go see here, if elif else, like that. Again, we will work on these conditions afterwards, but understand like how code is there. And if I have like multiple tier of things, under this if condition, there is another if condition. You see, based upon the conditions, you can understand, right? This if has this else. This if has this else. This if has this else. Hope you understood. That's the reason they say that if you need to maintain consistency. So that's why they say that don't use tabs. Why they told don't use tabs means earlier there used to be a scenario where every editor used to have different settings for the tabs. Means the tab size in every editor used to be different. If you go to the term into the file settings, okay, every preferences if you see and the settings, you can understand the tab size. If I say, yeah, if I say tab size, see, the tab size is 4. Nowadays, every editor ID are coming like this. But earlier it used to be not the scenario. Some editors used to have like 2 tab space, some has like 4 tab space like that. That's why they say that don't use tabs, use white spaces. They said like, whenever you have this much big condition also, instead of writing a tab, you write like 1, 2, 3, 4. And if it is like this, then write like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So like this, we need to type. So it is very hard, right? So though they give conditions, people have a shortcut every time. So people evolved in a different way. What they decided is like, hey, let's go with the tab itself. But every time when you're doing a thing, we will ensure that every tab space is 4 every time. Why 4 only? Why not 3? Why not 6 means? They find like, 4 is a medium way. Even if it is a small screen or very big screen, people can notice easily. That's the reason they have taken 4. It's nothing to do with Python. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sure. So like this, they have taken. This is a history. Every time I'm telling what is the history, why people decided something like this, and how people are evolving over a period of time. So though that I told, these are like condition guidelines. Whether you follow or not, it's up to you. And you see, similarly in a for loop, these are all block codes. We don't have any braces. So that's the reason in a while loop. See how the indentation they are playing a key role here. So even here also, there is a function. So we have a class. How things are following. So this is a story about it and why we need to choose something and why we have chosen something else for a period of time. Now going further, there is one more thing on this is about after understanding the basic syntax how to write a code. Now to understand further, there is something called as built-in functions. What are the built-in functions? Every language is composed of two things. One is the built-in function and the other one is the keywords. In Python 2 there were 64 built-in functions. Whereas in Python 3, so as of 3.11, there were 71 built-in functions. Means for any of the most commonly used tasks, they have some functions. Already we understood about two of them. You remember we worked on print. Print is a function for printing anything. You give one value, any number of values, any data types, it doesn't matter, it will print it. Similarly, we have seen type. Type is something which will give the data type of something, right? We have seen like that. But slowly we will see all these data types one after the other whenever their importance comes. Instead of executing all at one shot, that is the best way. So let's take the first example. So you have worked on the print statement. Let me take more onto this print because that is easy for you to start. So if I start with the typical print function, till now we know how to write with a print. And what is a typical syntax? What Pipette says, the first line should be Shebang line. Second line should be like the docstring about the purpose. And you write something. And they also say that if you write some statement, so if I say define a variable called as almighty, and if you are writing some comments also, you give some two white spaces, then it's easy. People for legibility. And it is of type string, I'm telling. This is how we write a comment, right? And you know the story which I told already. If I write in multiple lines, then what will happen? Can you tell me what will be the output if I execute it? I created a variable called as almighty. First I'm printing name, then name in quotes. So first I will get name or like almighty.
Almighty.
Yes, because as I'm using the variable as it is, variable what are you storing, it will come. If I do in quotes, I'll get like that. And similarly, if I write both of them in the same lines, then name is equal to almighty will come. In the same fashion, I can do the things in the other way also. As both are in strings, I got one thought. Generally, Python is a strictly typed language. Due to that, like, if both are of same data type, we can add also. Now, as this name of the student is also a string, because anything you define in quotes, it's a string. And this variable name is also a string. I can join them together and print it. Did you see name of the student is like this, you got? And for the same thing, if I say define like name of the student is, what will happen? What's the difference? If I define like name of the student is and like this, what is the difference? In the first statement, everything will come in the same line saying like name of the student is name. There is no difference, right? If you want like empty print statement, I can give. So name of the student is name. In the second line, as you did a string operations and placed it outside, you got it separately. And also when you're doing a plus operation, one more problem is that if you want some white space after this, you need to give it. If I give that white space, you see name of the student is so and so. And if you want to do the same thing with a comma means like you need not give an extra white space. For comma, you don't need an extra white space. You can give as it is. Means the same thing we can do in two different ways. Sir, when I'm printing with comma, why it didn't get a white space? So means white space will automatically come. So that's the beauty of this print statement. To understand more, you'll understand here. See here. What is the difference between these two statements? Here we have name, and in the second line we have something called a sep. What is this sep doing? It is doing nothing. What I gave a sep as a empty white space means this is a separator. Similarly, if I give sep as something else, then slowly you will understand. Did you see you got a hyphen instead of white space? Similarly, if I write the sep as empty, means I didn't write anything within quotes. Now you are slowly understanding something. Now, let me give you one more example. So here you may not understand much things. If I go for one more example, say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the default separator is a white space. But if you give some other white space, so separator is something, did you understand? Now you will slowly understand much better things. If I do like this, now did you see what I'm doing? I gave values again. Now I give different separators. Now did you understand what happened? Separator is something means whenever you do comma separated values, when printing, between each of the values, what should come? That is what separator says. The default separator is white space. That's why when you print anything comma separated, you will get a white space between them. But if you want the separator to be something else, you need to specify that. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And the next part I want to tell in this program is about Python is a dynamic type language. We know that. Means like though the variable name is having a almighty, which is a string, so we can change the variable to something else called as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Means I am changing a string to an integer. Is it possible? Will it throw in any error?
No.
It should
No.
not. Yes, it should not throw because it is just a variable it is doing. And again, when I'm using also, I can use because comma separated when you're doing, it doesn't matter what is the other data type, right? Everything is independent. So whether you have two of separate data type also, it doesn't matter. But if you do in this way, means when you're trying to concatenate, so this is where we need to be very careful. As the variable was changed to a different data type, we cannot add a string and an integer. That's the reason we get an error called as type error. See, every time when you get an error, it's better to note that. Then, so you will understand down the line what are the different types of errors you are getting, what are the different error messages are coming. So what is the reason for this, sir? Because Python is something called as a strictly typed language. Strictly typed language means it can add the values only of same data type. If I say clear and if I say Python in interactive mode, I'm showing. If I say 1 plus 1, it will work. If I say 1 plus 1 as a string, it will not work. Right? That is the main problem. So you cannot add a string and an integer. Then what is the solution, sir? You need to convert both to the same data type. Both we have same data type. I write this previous command just because in the output it will show. So this is the actual statement. As Python is a strict language, strictly typed language, if I do 1 plus 2, both are integers, it will do. Say 1 plus 2 means both are integers, 3 will come. Similarly, 1 as a string is added. So you can see that. So when you do this, it will work. If I have two strings also, it will work. Though they are numbers, they are like in quotes, right? The moment it's in quotes, it's a string. If you do like, like 1 plus 2 becomes 3. But if you do 1 as a string and 2 as a string, if you combine, both will come concatenation. That's the reason it will come like a string. Don't worry. But if you give like two different data types, then the problem comes. So that's the reason, right? When you have two different data types, it will definitely throw an error. Then what is the solution means? You can convert using the converters. The converters are like this. So if I have one plus, if I have like a 2 as a string, instead of that, what I can do? There is a converter called as int. If I convert, the 2 will be converted to an integer and it will add it. And similarly, if you have one of them as an integer, you can convert that to a string. So either way we can do, but ensure that both should be should be into the same data type. You see, in this case, I converted so number 2, which is like a string, to an integer, or like a 1 should be like a string. So there were different converters. Any of the converters we can use and convert them to different data types and just work on it. Now, if I exit this, so Python G so and so, did you notice that it is converting both of them? So this is the solution for this. So now did you all understand why Python is called as a strictly typed language? There are different statements which I made today. So Python is a dynamic type language, and also Python is a strictly typed language. So hope you understood the meanings of each of them, right? So Python is everything. In fact, whatever you wrote, I can write to this README file. In the README file, if I go there and if I specify all this information, so whenever you are seeing the README file, you can get all these things. In the preview, see here, whatever you wrote, it's gonna come. So this is a markdown syntax. That's the reason I can write what are the statements. It will come like Python is a strictly typed language and so and so. So now you got some clarity. After this, the last point in this particular statement I want to show is that, so where we have stopped, yeah. So one of the person asked me this interview question. So when I told this point, sir, anything we can convert, I gave like 123. Can I convert to integer? Yes, of course you can convert. You got 123 as a number. But then immediately he asked me, sir, can I convert? So 123 point so and so means some floating point values there. Can I convert to an integer? No. Means these converters also have some kind of limitation. Sir, it is genuine like a floating point value, right? Yeah. For floating point value, you need to use float. For int, you cannot use. So again, that's a story which I will discuss shortly. And similarly, if I say 2, if something is like this, it cannot understand it is a 2 and convert, right? This is also not possible. So when you have some things like this, they cannot be converted. So now coming back to our problem, why we came to all these things? Because here we are unable to concatenate two things, right? So to address this, what is the solution I have is this one. So the solution I have is what? Converting that to a string. And in the process, if I want to add something or anything, so finally, all should be of strings, all should be of integers. Only then I can do the addition. As everything became like finally a strings, I can do the addition. It's possible, right? So that is how it works. So now let me break for a moment. Do you all have any doubts? Okay. So then like the last thing I want complete about this functions is about the print syntax again. In the print syntax, as you know, the print function, the second leg of the print function is about th. You know how you write a typical function? The first statement should be what? Shebang line. The typical Shebang line which everyone uses in this is like above this one. And like after the Shebang line, we write the purpose. Within the purpose, I write about the print function usage. Till now, I didn't tell much about this print function, but now I am to tell more about it. What is this print function used about, and what is the purpose? And during the print, there is something called as escape sequences. Means till now, I will tell you what all these things are doing shortly. What do you mean by escape sequence? Any sequence which will be escaped is called as an escape sequence. It's a very good explanation, but it's difficult to understand. So let me give you one simple statement like this: print. Now, if I want to learn it, say clear and Python h so and so. Hello world Python is there. When I printed also, I got hello world Python. Fine. Now I will write one more statement, same like the above, but it will have slash t's in middle. If I execute it, did you see that in the output I didn't get slash t? That's the magic. These are called as escape sequences. These escape sequences, not just three, there are many others, but these are most common used. Each escape sequence has some importance. Slash t is for tab space. Whenever slash t is encountered, instead of printing slash t, it will print this thing. And similarly, if I go for the next one, say if I go for slash t and slash n, slash t means in tab space, slash n is a new line. That's the reason in the second line, after world, it moved the cursor to the new line and printed Python. And next, sir, what if unintentionally in my source code, sometimes the slash n's or slash t comes. I want to print them. So in that case, if you want to ignore, you need to write a two slashes. Say, I want this slash t as it is, but slash n I don't want. Then anytime when you have such slashes, we need to write a slash before it. Just imagine your statement is like a big paragraph. You cannot go to each of the slash and write, right? It's very difficult. Also, if this program is coming in real time, means someone is doing it during the programming and coming, then also you can do. That's the reason in that case, write an R before it. For any string, in Python, we can write in a single quotes or double quotes, it doesn't matter. But if before the string, if there is an R, it will treat all the content within as a raw string. So that's the reason, see here, in the first case, slash t importance came, you saw the white space, but slash n came as it is. Did you see? Whereas in the second case, all the slash t and slash n's came as it is. Copy, sir? That is the beauty of raw strings. If for you to understand a simple use case is about, say, if I go for this one, ignore it. Did you understand the difference between these two lines? In the first case, there is one Windows path. Generally in Windows only this happens actually, in Windows paths. You can have something like a new folder, which is the most commonly you do. In new folder, when you're doing, slash n will be there, right? And the slash n is not intentional. It is part of your command only. But in this case, what will happen? As there is a slash n, it is treating it as a path and you are getting like this. Rather, if you write like a raw string or use like a double slash, so double slash before every slash, that's the reason in Windows what happens. Whenever you are printing paths also, they will do like this. So if I execute it, now it comes like this. A simple example for you to do is that even if you go in your Python environment, if I say like import sys, so sys.path, sys.executable. So in Linux, as it is Linux, it is showing. In Windows, paths will be slightly different. So if I do the same thing in a Windows, then you will notice it is slightly different. If I open that in my command prompt, and if I type Python, so if I say like import sys.executable, means where is my Python executable? Did you see that two slashes are coming? So as it is in Windows, it is working like that. In Linux, it works the other way. Hope it's clear. So that's the reason we need to have these raw representations will be very helpful. Now you understood the main problems and possible solutions. The next thing that you learn here is about, till now we didn't use the other part of the print. In a print, typically, what are the data that you want to print, you'll write. And apart from that, there are two things. One is the separator and other one is the end. Separator means till now you know. You have any number of values, comma separated. Wherever you write comma, by default you will get a white space. But you never worked on something called as the end. What is this concept of end means? If you are familiar with C language or Java, the moment you do a print or println, cursor will not go to the new line automatically, right? So if you want, you need to explicitly tell. So in Python, you are not telling it. So it will happen defaultly in the backend. So optional, if I give like end equal to /n, that also works in the same way. So this is the default action actually. Clear and Python hit so and so if I execute. Did you notice that the first two statements and the second two statements worked exactly in the same way? Hello world, like that. Similarly, next time, if instead of this one, if I want to do with something else, say like if I do like hello, after that I give an underscores. Now this time when it executing, did you see you got two underscores? The second one I didn't give, that's why it's a new line automatically. Or like I can give like a white space this time. You see, when I give white space, did you see? After hello, I got a white space, then world came. And similarly, not just one, I can have like multiple statements. Say this time, see here, what all I have? Hello, Python, so and so. There are three statements. So default separator is a white space. That's why all these three values came white space separated. And after that, I gave a /t as an end. And similarly, if I give something slightly updated, means this time I gave a end is separator is also a semicolon. Now instead of white space, did you see white semicolon came? And after that I got a tab space. Like this, I can make use of different kinds of statements. So that is the difference between a separator and an end. Separator will separate all the values within the given print statement. End will ensure after the printing all the values in the current statement, what should do next. So hope it's clear. So like this, there were like different statements. So you can just walk through. So this is all about these statements. And within the Python, so what I'm trying to say, you can write any garbage. It doesn't matter. Once you write within quotes, only these escape sequences will be recognized. Other sequences will not be recognized. You write as it is, it will just think like that. That's it. So similarly, if you write something like like this /x means /x means it will recognize like a hexadecimal values. So you see, when I'm printing these hexadecimal values, I got this dollar symbol, and this is like a rupee symbol. So it means like every hexadecimal value also has some representation in the backend. So that is called as a encoding, which I will tell afterwards. And similarly, you have like Unicode characters also, like hexadecimal. There is another thing called as Unicode characters. Every Unicode character means /u if it is starting. It has some importance. If you execute, you will see their characters like rupee symbol, euro symbol, so ampersand symbol like that. And similarly, not only this, there were other kinds of overwritings like /b/r, so like that. So means the last two things to check is about. You see now, this is very interesting. I think this is out of bound, but it's a very, very simple thing. If you have like a /b means, if you just want to overwrite the previous character, to understand it, rather than explaining in a script mode, because if I just print it, it will come everything one line. It is very difficult to execute each line and understand each one. That's the reason it's better to execute them in interactive mode. So if you want small details, it's better to go in interactive mode. If I go in interactive mode and if I execute this statement, called as hello print so and so. Generally, there is a difference between a print. If you just do a hello and the same hello, if you write with a print statement within the interactive mode also, you can observe the difference. The codes are not there, right? Hope you understood. So what I'm trying to say, this print only will do this extra job. If I do like just a code without these things, say after this hello, I'm doing a /b something. Did you see when I printed what I meant? For /b, it is giving the hexadecimal representation. Means every time when I give a /b, it is converting to corresponding hexadecimal, then storing as it is. But print is a function which will take these kind of escape sequences and work on it. And what is this escape sequence doing? /b, it is overwriting the previous character. If I say hello b, so it is doing like this. So to understand more clearly, let me give you a simple numeric example. Then you will understand. If I say 1, 2, 3, 4 is there. And if I say after 2/b, if I wrote, observe carefully, then this /b will change the previous, overwrite the previous values. Means 1, 2, after 2 you wrote 3. Means 3, instead of writing afterwards, it has overwritten on the previous value. Means if I just have 2 values, there is nothing happens. But after that, if I have one character, that's the reason you can see the previous character is overwritten. And if I have next character also, just it will come as it is. So hope you understood what is the /b doing. It is just overwriting the previous character. If I take this example, you will understand. First /b, second. Before the /b, there is a t character. The t is overwritten. Similarly, so whenever what if you have like the /b at the end? So the previous character will be overwritten by the next character. Of course, there is nothing before it, right? So to overwrite. So like that, only one character will be overwritten. Whereas there is one more thing called as /r. What is this /r doing? Let me show you. Hello /r world I have. Okay. It will overwrite from the starting. You may not understand now clearly. Let me do in a numeric example. Then you will understand. If I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 /b, say dog I have. Okay, some example. Then what happens? /b will overwrite the previous value, one character. Means instead of 5, you will get dog. That's very clear. Rather, instead of /b, if I say /r, did you see what happened? It's very simple for you to understand. How it works is, first it will print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you are asking to display D, right? So it will go to the starting and replace with a D. Then you want O. Then it will replace with a D. So now did you understand why you got a dog 45? It is overwriting on the previous values. That's the reason after slash, if you have like a doggy or something, it's a very big statement, right? So that's why you don't see previous values. Means it will overwrite on top of the first values. If I say one more example, you will understand. If I say like 11111 /r, say 222. Now did you understand? Okay, I need to trace. Now did you understand? So first it will write like 11111. Then on top of the starting, it will go and say like 2, 2, 2. That's the reason you got 3 2s and 2 1s. Means it will overwrite from the starting. That's the point. Hope it's clear. So this is all about these functions and this works. And lastly, coming to this comment operator in this statement, as that is the last program today. You can see that comments are something which will not take like, in Python, we don't have like a multiple lines comments. Okay, we can stop here. We can do again tomorrow. So we can stop here.